Hi, it's Dr. Renee, and this is another after show for Breathe TV. So today I am so excited. We are joined by, as you just watched her episode, Jonell, and we're going to ask her how to pronounce her last name so we get it right. But I'm really excited to talk to her, so we'll bring her on. Please pronounce your last name for me real quickly.
Hello, it's Deshotel.
Deshotel.
Yes,
See, I was going to butcher it.
it's
So
not as hard as it seems. It's not as hard as it seems.
So, Jonelle, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for sharing your story. I'm sure that you touched many people, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, when did you get diagnosed with breast cancer, or was it was breast cancer, right?
Yes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I was diagnosed with a triple negative invasive ductal carcinoma back in December of 2020.
During the pandemic,
Oh, yeah, during the pandemic, as
all
if
the
we weren't
time,
going through enough. Correct.
right? So that had to be quite a interesting thing to navigate because at that time, it was hard to even go to the hospital by yourself, let alone to have somebody else with you.
Exactly, exactly. Luckily for me, with some of my treatment and medication, I had to have someone with me just because I wasn't
Oh,
able to drive afterwards. So that was a fortunate side for me. Only one person, of course, over the age of 18. So I had to definitely make sure that I had a driver with me, to be able to get me back and forth to appointments. But yes, it was indeed a very isolated time. It was a very quiet time, scary time. But yes, nothing like a cancer diagnosis in the middle of a global pandemic.
so how did you find? Did you do a self exam and then tell your doctor, or was it your annual mammogram?
Yes, I actually did. So typically, going back historically with my life, I am what I consider myself to be a legacy warrior. My mom passed away from breast cancer back in 2014. And so because of that, I had to start getting mammograms a lot sooner, than the average person. I couldn't wait until 40 to get my first mammogram. My mom was actually first diagnosed at the age of 36,
Oh
which
wow,
means that I had to start mammograms 10 years prior to, which started me at 26 for
26.
receiving annuals.
We've
Um,
been stressing this, not to cut you off, but we've been stressing this at Black Doctor how very important it is to get family histories.
Absolutely.
For that
Absolutely.
reason alone,
Yep.
breast cancer, prostate cancer, colon cancer, these are three cancers we know that you need to start your screening earlier if you've
Yes.
had a first line relative
Yes.
diagnosed with that
Yes.
disease. So thank you so much for saying that because like I said, we've been trying to preach and teach that.
And I always say, if you see something or feel something, say something.
Yep.
Don't have the narrative of, oh, I have to wait until 40 to get checked. Absolutely not. If you see something, feel something, it does not matter what age you are. Still, make sure to get that double checked. But needless to say, the irony of my story is that I went in for my annual mammogram. Normally, I would go every October because my birthday is in October. So normally I would just make sure I have my mammograms during that month. There was nothing found or seen on my mammogram scan when I went in for my mammogram that October. In November, so a few weeks later, 1 month later, in the shower doing my normal self exams, I found or felt what felt like to me just like a small lump, just like the size of like a green pea almost. And it startled me at first. And then when I went to try to feel it again, I didn't feel anything. So I'm like, what is that about? And then I waited for like an hour and I went to feel it again and it was there. And I'm like, okay, so maybe my mind is playing tricks on me. Like, I don't know what's really going on, but let me call my doctor just to be on the safe side. Like before I just freak out, let me call my doctor.
Exactly.
Um, I called my general practitioner. I let her know that I had just felt what seems like to me something different, seemed to be a lump. She immediately scheduled me for a mammogram, which is what I went in for maybe like a day or two after that. Once they did the actual mammogram, guess what? Nothing was found on the scan again. And so I actually had to have my doctor and the mammogram, the technician to feel like, look here, feel this, like, let me sit up, let me lay back, move.
Oh, wow.
Because it's like this little thing was just running all over the place. And I'm like, guys, I'm not losing my mind. I promise you there is something there. So that is when they moved forward into doing an ultrasound. And sure enough, on the ultrasound, you could see it clear as day. And it was just sitting there. It was a little round, but it was basically sitting underneath like that breast muscle. So every time I would move, it's like it would move and shift with me. So going into that like advocacy part for myself and then for anybody else, if you feel something, say something. Don't let anyone tell you, oh no, that isn't there, because I knew without a shadow of a doubt that I had felt something that was not normal to my body. And thankfully, they listened to me, and we moved forward from the ultrasound. Then they scheduled me for a biopsy, maybe about a week later. Went in for the biopsy, waited for the testing. And so I would probably say in total, between feeling the lump and the actual diagnosis, it was about a 3-week time span.
That is very impressive, and kudos to your team.
Yes.
Because they were on top of it.
Love my team. Love my team.
Yeah, you need to, because that is, unfortunately, especially as Black women, we oftentimes, unfortunately, get ignored. And,
Yes.
like I know somebody who was young. She was 30 something. And she said she found something and they said, you're too young.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when she finally was diagnosed, she was stage 3.
Wow. Wow. And that's actually something, believe it or not. I was diagnosed at the age of 34. Like I said, my mom, she was originally diagnosed at the age of 36. That time span where I'm just going in as someone with a family history in my 20s to receive a mammogram is not easy. Like, that is one of the most difficult things to advocate for.
Right.
Because it's like, yeah, there may not be anything there. However, like, my mother has had this for so long, then it got to the point where my mother has passed away from this disease. So I need to be checked just the fights with the insurances, and
of course,
it's like, oh my gosh, it's so difficult. So it actually got a little bit easier for me once I had found something.
An actual diagnosis.
Yeah, because it's like, okay, now they believe me, and I don't like feeling like that.
Yeah.
I want you to believe me the first time.
Yeah. And that insurance thing, that's what I was about to say next. I have a friend who unfortunately is no longer with us, but she had to fight to get an ultrasound. Her doctor wanted her to have an ultrasound. She had kidney cancer as a kid, and then ended up with breast cancer. And like I said, she ended up dying, but she had to fight with the insurance company. And she's like, but my doctor's prescribing this and saying that I need to have this done. And so I just, oh gosh, I just worry about the insurance system in the country. I'm like, oh my
God. Of course, I always say, like, it's worth the fight.
Oh, definitely.
We have so much going on to where, why is that fight even necessary?
Exactly.
We're fighting
for your life.
Yeah, like I'm fighting to live here. So why am I fighting to receive
care that you pay for?
Yeah, some form of medical care or a scan. I believe, and if I'm not mistaken, I'm going back to the beginning when I was first diagnosed. I believe it's a PET scan that you go through, where they really just get all into the nitty gritty of things that are going on with my insurance, to learn that I was not qualified for a PET scan because my cancer the tumor was not large enough. And I'm like, let's go back to the beginning of that sentence. My cancer, I still have cancer. So why is it like this? But you live and you learn. And that is why we're here now, to talk about those things and to talk about those experiences, because it's very real, and
it's so sad because, I'm the type of person that I'm going to argue with them too, until my last breath. I'm going to be like, you got to cover this. You got to pay for this. This is what I need done. And I do the same for my family members too. But unfortunately, I feel so bad, especially now being a caregiver. I'm like, what about those people that don't have anyone? Oh my God.
Yeah.
I feel so bad, especially because I feel like the system is really not friendly to seniors because it's just so complex. It's just, like my dad, one of his medications was extremely expensive. They said we should go to the website for the pharmaceutical company to find a savings. Now, if I wasn't there to do it, that just wasn't something easily done by my mom or my dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I feel bad for those that don't have someone to argue with the insurance company, or, there's people who, you say we're not going to cover it. They say, okay. And they just, they go on and they're like, I guess I can't get that done or whatever. No. And unfortunately, there are people like that. And that is not the attitude to have, because if the doctor says that you need this done, they didn't just say it just for the sake of saying it. It must have had some reasoning.
Absolutely. And it's for all ages, right?
Exactly.
Because I realized in the beginning, a lot of the tests that I had to receive, the MRIs and the CAT scans and things of that, like just any of these testings, one, the co-pays, two, the out-of-pocket costs, so the cost that my insurance is not going to cover. Luckily and prayerfully, I had the resources to get by, I had the help and the support that I needed, as well as my own savings to get by through those things. But my heart truly goes out to the men and women that get those calls saying, oh yeah, by the way, your out-of-pocket fee is thousands of dollars and your appointment is tomorrow. So we can't do your scan
until you pay 50% or all of it or something.
It's very, very tough. It's very tough. It's not just, I tell everyone all the time, it's not just physical. It's not physical. That's the thing.
And I mean, honestly, especially if you think the way that a lot of us think, all that stress could not be helping people heal. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to create a healing environment here, and fighting with you is really not helping. My system here
at all, because you realize that when cancer finds us, finds us, we are already in a routine. We are already in our lifestyle. As far as I was concerned, of course, we're going through a global pandemic. I was working from home at the time. I have a teenage daughter. I have all of these things that's going on. I'm a full-time mom. So it's like, okay, now what? And I think back to my own mom. It's like, okay, let me try to channel some of that energy. How did you get through this? But to have to top it off with fighting with insurances and fighting with all this, it's just like, it's some things are just not necessary. I understand protocol, I understand the rules, but there is not enough grace that is extended to patients that are going through things like this.
Yeah, I totally agree. So 2020, you start your treatments, and did you end up having surgery? Okay.
Yeah, I did. So I underwent 16 rounds of chemotherapy. I also went through 17 rounds of immunotherapy.
Okay.
I also had a double mastectomy with immediate reconstruction. And believe it or not, that's something I haven't really spoke about a lot, but I always feel that it's necessary to share that part. So after my chemotherapy, the treatment itself had already kind of eradicated the tumor. So my doctors did give me the option for a lumpectomy, where they can just go
Right.
in, take that area. The only thing that I was really concerned about, I guess you can say, with a lumpectomy is, they go in and take that spot, but just the look, the feel, the symmetry, like things, can be a little bit different. However, I advocated for myself to receive a double mastectomy. Like my motto was, just take them, please take them.
Right.
I don't want.
If you saw your mother go through it, I would be. And I think your daughter was a teenager. She didn't need them anymore. So therefore,
I'm like, take them both. We can reconstruct. And of course, I always understand that we're never zeroed out percentage wise when it comes down to like reoccurrence,
right.
Happening again, right? Even if the breasts aren't there, we're always prone to it, especially those first 4 or 5 years. However, in my particular case, seeing my mom go through it, seeing other women go through it, being so inspired by like previvors, those that have the BRCA1 gene mutation, and seeing them taking it upon themselves to do the double mastectomy to avoid, as much as they can. That really helped me to make my decision to advocate for that double mastectomy. Because I'm like, you know what? Take them both. We'll reconstruct, but let me lower my percentage just a little bit. I understand it's not going to zero out, but let's just kind of knock it down just a little bit more. So that was my reasoning why. And I actually get that question a lot, lumpectomy versus mastectomy. I always say, if you are offered a lumpectomy, that's patient choice, whatever works for you and your lifestyle and your body and your healing process. But as for me and my body, the double was better. It was better for me.
And I mean, I think it's also it's peace of mind, because you're going to be, every time you have to go to have a mammogram, every time you do self-breast, you're going to be thinking about, is something there, is something. And so I think that, you did the right thing. My friend Renee Seiler used to be on CBS Morning, where Gayle King is basically now. And she did it on air and publicly talked about how she had a prophylactic double mastectomy because both of her parents had breast cancer.
Wow.
Her dad and her mom. And so I forgot how old she was, but she was still on air working. And she was like, I just made the decision that I didn't want to live with this monkey on my back, basically, just waiting to jump out. So it was like, she talked to the doctors. And I think when she did it, because this was probably 20 years ago, it was really kind of unheard of. Right. So that's why it was really a huge deal and all over the press. And she was like, I just felt like this would just be a better choice for me, so that I don't have to think about that, because otherwise I just feel like I'm just waiting for the other shoe to fall,
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's the thought process of it's breast tissue that we're dealing with, right? And so if we take just that small amount out that the cancer attacked,
there's still other tissue there.
Still remaining tissue as well as the other breast. I'm like, take it all.
Yes. And so she had 2 children as well. And I want to say they were probably teens at the time too, if not maybe middle school age or something. And she was like, just take them, and we will figure this out. But I can't do this. And so, and I think that, and I know for a fact, even if you have a lumpectomy and plus you've had breast cancer, then you have to go for even more mammograms more regularly than everyone else. And, just be able to woosah and be like,
just a little bit.
Just a little, yeah. And they have amazing physicians that do great jobs with reconstruction. My friend is in Atlanta, and she is a breast surgeon, Dr. Riley Gore, and she's amazing, Black woman. And, she tells me stories, and I'm just like, there's just no way. She's telling me about a 20-something-year-old that was diagnosed, and I was like, no. And so the crazy thing is, the person that I know that was young, she tried to do the reconstruction, and do you know she ended up getting sick as a dog with the infection from that?
Wow.
I was like, oh my God, this poor woman, like what else? What else?
It always goes back to every journey is so different. Like we all may share that common bond of having that diagnosis, but man, we all just experience so many different things. So many different things.
It's crazy. So, you know, so yeah, you just never know. So where do you stand right now?
I'm in full remission. Full
Amen.
remission.
Amen.
I'm still going in for my follow-ups. Of course, we
Of
still,
course.
I'm still in the cancer center just as much going in, for my follow-ups and things of that nature. But I am currently in full remission in regard to the actual breast cancer, in regard to the actual.
And what stage were you diagnosed at?
I was diagnosed at stage 1A.
Oh, amen. Okay.
Yeah, amen.
That's
Amen.
because you advocated. That's because you did yourself breast
That's
cancer.
because I advocated,
Yeah.
and it did not grow itself enough to have lymph node involvement. So that's how I was able to stay at that stage 1. So I was very, very excited about that. And we were able to fight it. That's actually how I was able to, I don't want to say get away with, but that's how I was able to not have radiation because I didn't have that lymph node involvement. So that was a blessing. That was definitely a blessing.
Praise the Lord. That is wonderful.
Yeah.
So I know, since you have a teen daughter, I know you have already taught her and all her girlfriends on how to do their self-breast exams.
Yes, absolutely. It is a conversation that we are all very, very comfortable with. Keep in mind that my daughter, she's 14, she'll be 15 this year. However, she actually, at the age of 5, she lost her grandmother, my mom, to breast cancer. And then when she was age 11, her mom was diagnosed. So, she really doesn't have a choice but to stay on top of things. And, even when it comes down to her friends and things like that, it's like, it's a comfortable conversation that we could have if you guys have any questions, learning how to do these things ahead of time, because I always say cancer does not discriminate. Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter if you had a family relative.
Exactly. What age, color, what your status is, it does not matter. It chooses where it wants to go. And so therefore, we always just have to make sure that we are aware and remaining vigilant of our health, of our bodies. I always say, if you see something that looks weird, if you feel something that just does not feel right or feel normal, let's talk about it. Let's get to the doctor. Let them be the ones to say, okay, we don't see anything.
Exactly.
Here.
Yeah.
Run a scan on me. Let's do whatever we need to do just to have that early detection.
And the peace of mind. I mean, I don't know. Like I personally, I had a friend that died November of 2021. She also was the founder of Thank God It's Natural Hair Products. Christia Donaldson was a dear friend of mine.
I use her hair products.
Okay. Yeah. And so I had went to her funeral, and literally a week later, I felt something. And when I tell you, I was nervous, Nelly. Yeah. I called and was like, you guys, I know that I'm not supposed to have this mammogram because this was in November. So I think I wasn't supposed to have a mammogram until January. I was like, can you please call them and tell them I feel something? I need to go now. Yeah. And so they called insurance, and it did get covered. And girl, they took me on a Sunday. I know they work 7 days a week. It was a Sunday, literally days after I made the phone call. Yeah. And I went in. And it was nothing. But when I tell you, I went to my mother and was like, feel right here. Don't you feel something and I have cystic breast, so it can be confusing anyway. I said, Lord.
Yeah.
And I had already had a small scare when I was 36, my doctor was like, I want you to have a baseline. If your insurance will cover it, I want you to go and get the mammogram.
Yeah.
Mind you, my form of thought was that by the time it comes for me to have a mammogram, the technology will be so great that I
Yeah.
won't have to have my boobs squeezed in any machine. Because at the time I was a 38G, and the whole idea of you squeezing those ginormous guacamelons was not something I wanted to be a part of. When she said this at 36, I go, wait a minute, I got 4 years on the technology. What is she talking about?
Yeah.
I went. I said, okay, you said it. I will go. I went. Jonell, it was no big deal. I was like, this is nothing. It would take 2 seconds. It was a little cold, but quick and easy.
And I think that those are important conversations.
Yeah.
We have so many young women. We have so many women over the age of 40 that live in fear of this machine.
Yeah, and it's not. And I think the technology, the technologists that perform the actual test, I believe that because they are usually always women.
Yes.
I believe that they understand and they have it down to a science. They don't want you to be miserable for long. So they are like, okay, do this, okay, do that. And I mean, it is so fast. It is so quick.
Yeah.
And so I went in there 36. It was no big deal. I was like, that was nothing. So when it came around to 40, I was like, give me the prescription. I went right back to the same center and everything was great. And literally they called the same day. And I was like, wait a minute. No, it might have been less than 24 hours later. They called and I was out of town and they left a message. So then when I was able to, I called back and I couldn't get in touch with that person. I had to leave another message. I had to leave a message. So then I ended up finally calling and the person had an accent. So I knew when she answered, it was her. And I said, this is Dr. Renee Matthews. You called and left me a message. I am a physician. Tell me what is going on.
Yes.
She wouldn't say nothing. She finally says, oh, it's incomplete. So I was actually with 2 OBGYNs and they were like, oh, people around your age often have incomplete mammograms. It's not a big deal. Oh, okay. Yes. So we scheduled it for the following week and I went back. And so I go back and I'm in there. And this time the lady is taking a long time. And I'm like, Jesus. And she goes, well, I'm trying to get back there, so I can get what they saw. I said, excuse me? And I think that I might have went white as a ghost, as black as I am. And she looked at me. It was a black woman. She looked at me and she goes, they didn't tell you, did they? I said, did my face show it? I just was like numb at that point. Like, I wasn't ready for that. Like, no one said it. No one had said a thing to me.
Yeah.
So she said, the good news is, because she saw, I think it's a miracle I passed out. She saw me and she said, they're going to let you know before you leave today. I said, oh, okay. So that made me feel a little bit better because I'm like, oh my God now, right? So sure enough, I went and got dressed and they sat me somewhere and I sat there and sure enough, here comes the nurse. Jonell, that lady looked cheery and as chipper as could be. She came in there. Could you come over here? Oh, sure. Go in her little office. Okay, so they found something and they need to do a biopsy. When I tell you, I'm like, not with this chipper cheery look she got on her face. I'm like, oh my God, no, Jesus, this isn't happening to me. So she goes, the good news is we have an appointment tomorrow at 12:30. I said, I will take it.
I will be here.
I called my mom. Mind you, the hospital is literally 6 blocks from my house. I wasn't as healthy as I am today. I got in a Lyft or Uber or whatever and was in the car to go home. And I am calling my mother. Now, my mother, 1, is a worrier, but 2, she's a priest. And I said, she got Jesus on the main line, and we need to tell him what we want now.
You gotta get that prayer circle.
So there was like, Mommy, they found something. I have to have a biopsy tomorrow. And my mother's like, well, so-and-so has cysts, so maybe it runs in the family. And I'm like, okay. So I went for that miserable biopsy. I took a picture of the table and sent it to my sister, my mom. My sister, Ree, your boob goes in that hole? I said, yeah. And I sat there. And so it was Memorial Day weekend, that coming weekend. And the doctor said he would have the results to me by Friday.
Uh-huh.
I said, okay. So Friday comes and my mother is calling me about to drive me nuts. Did they call? No, I will let you. Well, I think you need to call them. No, Ma, just let's relax. Look, because she making me nervous. I'm trying to be calm, but she about to make me nervous. So sure enough, as promised, they called and the lady goes, "You can enjoy your Memorial Day weekend." I said, "Oh, more importantly, my mother can enjoy hers because you don't know this lady been wearing me out."
Exactly.
And so and you know, I called Christia as soon as they said they found something and told her because she was diagnosed at the exact same place.
Wow.
And so she goes, "Okay, Renee, be calm. Let's pray about it. Let's hope it's nothing. But if it's something, I don't think you should stay there. You need to go where I went." And da 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 da. I said, "Okay." And she actually, before she died, she established a foundation, and her foundation has raised tons of money. But what they've been doing is going to these other centers that aren't so nice, and they've been making their waiting rooms much more beautiful. And then they've been paying for the women to get back and forth to the hospital, as well as paying parking fees and childcare, all sorts. So she's doing amazing. In her death, even she is still doing amazing work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So TGIN Cares is the name of the foundation, and her niece is the one who runs everything now, Ari. So yeah. So she's like, "Calm down, everything's gonna be okay." But they tell you something, you are going to this other place, and we're gonna. I was like, okay, you know. So she was right there with me too, and helping me every step of the way. And but yeah, it was a long 5 days, and then they said everything was fine, and they said they had put a marker when he did the biopsy. He's like, "You just need to tell them you have this marker, so because when you have mammograms from now on, they'll see this and they'll know that's where it was. So then they can keep making sure nothing comes back there, and that it was a calcification." I was like, okay. So, but yeah, that was my scare.
Wow.
And obviously, I'm 47, so I've had several mammograms since, and everything's been lovely. But when I tell you they sent me through it, I was like, I wanted to go to the counter and find that woman and shake her. I literally was like, I called and I asked you, what was, you could have just told me.
Could have just said that. Yeah. It's
because that poor lady, I mean, thankfully I didn't act a fool, but when I tell you, and she said, "Oh, they didn't tell you," I know she knew. She knew in my face that this wasn't right.
Yeah. Transparency is key. Like,
yes,
please, especially when it comes down to my health.
Exactly. Just tell me. And like I said, I had already told her, I am a doctor. So you use whatever terminology you need to use. Just tell me.
Yeah, exactly.
What is it? Tell me. And I was like,
no need to sugarcoat it.
Don't sugarcoat. Just come straight with it. So yeah, that was just the craziest thing when I didn't know. And oh God, I was like, oh my God, can you not do that to people?
You're right. It's scary. It's a scary process. It's scary, especially when you're waiting. I always say that waiting is just so much worse than actually knowing. That's how.
Right, because at least knowing, you can go into action and some, if it's taking medication or going to another doctor's appointment, whatever. But waiting, you just sitting there like, Lord,
I am sitting in limbo.
Right.
Like, okay, whenever you guys get a minute, just please just tell me. Because I can't go into action. As soon as I learned that I had the diagnosis, it's like, okay, it's go.
Boom, 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 boom. This appointment, that appointment.
Mm-hmm. Yep. What do I have to do to fight this? I'll go through my emotional stuff, after hours. But as long as I got y'all during business hours, we need a plan. We got to get this together. So. And luckily, in my case, it did. It worked in my favor because I'm like, let's get this over with. I was diagnosed on December 3rd. And then my very first chemo treatment was on New Year's Eve, was on December 31st. So I was actually able to tackle getting my port placed in my chest, getting all my scans done, my appointments done, like everything within those few weeks, because I didn't want to wait. Like,
no.
It's over with. I'll wait.
Get it out. It don't belong there. Get it out now.
Yep, exactly.
But yeah, the fact that you said it was a pea size still impresses me. I'm like, how did she? But like I said, me and my cystic breast, I would notice a pea. But
yeah, nothing but God. Like I truly say that. Nothing but God, because it was so random. And again, as soon as I went right back to touch it, it wasn't there.
Right.
It was like moving around almost. And I have very, very dense breasts.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it's moving around, it's in the squishies, and I'm like, where did it go? But it was there. It was there.
But I'm so glad that your physicians listened to you. That is something that, we as Black women are really having a hard time with. And so
Oh yeah,
the fact that they listened and took action is just kudos to them. Like I said, great team.
absolutely.
That's exactly the kind of team you want. You want, because, unfortunately, as your mom's generation, my mom's generation, they felt like the doctor said so, so this is what we do. And you don't say anything to the doctor as far as like your ideas or your thoughts. No, we're a team.
Yeah.
So I'm telling you that I think something is over here. Come back here. No. Try again. It's
figure this out. And I did. I mean, when I tell you I was laying back, turning side to side, I'm like, we are going to find this thing before I leave. And that's exactly what we did. I had to stand up, move over, lift up my hands. I'm like, it's there. I promise it's there. And sure enough, and it didn't show on the mammogram.
Right.
Didn't show. It was not until they did that ultrasound and went underneath, and that's when it was found.
Yep. And so that's what I'm saying. It's a new day. Yes. 2024. Yes. You can say to the doctor, this is what I feel. I know my body, and this ain't normal.
It's not normal.
So can you help me to figure out what's going on so we can figure this out? And, do I need to go have a test? Do I need to... Please speak to the doctor. Do not let Google be your best friend for that. Google can be your best friend for a whole lot of things, but not your medical advice.
Do not get on the internet. I mean, when I would type in, especially with the triple negative breast cancer, when I would type that in, Google has killed me 1,000,000 times.
Exactly. And that's what I'm like, that's not where you get your medical advice.
That is not
to your doctor. Today in 2024, we got patient portals. Best thing ever. You can send a message and get a response, if not the same day, at least in 24 hours from somebody that is informed and knows what they're talking about. Exactly. They might even schedule you an appointment that quickly. But you need to rely on your physicians and not Google for that.
Yeah. I get more on the internet now, being on this side of the disease.
Yeah.
And it amazes me the things that I see. Yes, we're going to have those fear of reoccurrence. We're going to have those things. However, it's just like, oh my gosh, like you guys, the internet will really kill you. It will kill you in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no.
Yes. So and that's why you have to go to reliable sources like blackdoctor.org, places where you do know that you're going to get the actual factual information and not some, and I tell everyone, I am all about Eastern, Western, whatever medicine, as long as it has scientifically been tested to be proven, and you can give me that information, then I'm good.
Yeah.
But when you have all these wonderful ideas and no one has went through anybody's clinical trial or any testing or anything, I can't say that you should just do that. I think you need to do what's been tested and do that.
Correct.
But definitely make sure that you're getting your information from a reliable source, a trusted source, so that you can make informed decisions. So, and you should have your questions written down so that you can ask the doctor all the questions you need to have. And now in 2024, we can have people with us again, or you have them FaceTime or call on speakerphone so that they can listen. But you need to have an advocate with you at all times.
Absolutely.
Somebody else needs to listen to the medical information besides just that one person.
And it's also good to get informed. We do have those like myself, whereas after my disease, I wanted to help advocate for other women. Like that's what I pride myself on. And that's what I have a passion for, because when you're dealing with real life experiences, my real life experience, you won't be able to find on a Google,
right.
And so you can, I'm not a medical professional, but you can ask me what I've been through,
right.
And I'm an open book. I'll 100% tell you what I've been through.
You can say what worked for your chemo treatments, what didn't work
for me. Exactly. and just find those women. We find so many people where we like, oh my God, you did it, you fought the fight, you did this, you did that. But now ask me the questions.
Yep.
I'll
Yep.
answer them. You
Yep.
know,
Don't reinvent the wheel. Like, don't go in
Yeah.
blindly. You don't need to go in blindly. There's way too many people out here.
Ask me the questions. You think you felt something and you're scared to call your doctor? I am going to be the one to tell you, girl, call your doctor. Like, you know, we have to really just get ahead of these things. And so that's why I enjoy what I do, you know, being that open book and being a resource to women that may be a little bit afraid or don't have anyone to talk to or have a support system, because it's so important no matter what stage you're in. Even now, right. I'm still in the survivorship stage of my journey, you know, relearning, re-navigating. Life is not what it used to be for me. You know, I had to adjust to a whole new normal. And because of that, it's allowing me to still, I can learn while I'm going through my own journey, but I can also explain and teach what I'm going through experience wise, just so that way we all we're on one accord.
And with that, thank you so much. I want to make sure everyone sees her handle is below her name.
Yes.
At only
what is it? 17.
At only one Nell 17. Please find her online if you have questions and ask her.
Please.
She'll answer.
I will. Yeah. I am an open book, and my motto is no woman should fight alone. We should not be going through this alone. If you
and there's no shame to be involved or anything
at all.
But
we are one big community. Before I went through this, I was not used to seeing women that looked like me and was my age and, you know, kind of having that same life, moms and all this other kind of stuff. So the community it's huge. It's huge. It's big. I'm not the only one. I know that there are so many that are willing to be that voice and to be helpful. So whatever it takes to get it done.
And she's a resource for information. And so use her for that and get the information you need. And please, everyone, please, we can't stress it enough. Check your breast every single month.
Yes.
A once a year appointment with the OBGYN is not going to cut it. Okay. Yep. This is not going to cut it. You have to check them once a month until you are, you know, eligible to have a mammogram. And then you need to start having your mammograms. And like she already mentioned, if you have a first line relative, your sister, your mother, then you need, and they were diagnosed, you need to go 10 years before their diagnosis, 10 years, subtract 10 years, and that's when you need to start going to have mammograms. Yes. And yes, the insurance will cover it because that is documented information. So they will, you know, they might give you a little pushback, but once you make sure you let them know, then they shouldn't have a problem with it. And your doctor should recommend it. But if you don't tell your doctor everything, which is another thing we always talk about here, there are people who walk in and just think the doctor's job is to figure everything out, which no, that's not how it works. You need to give information and then the doctors can work with that information. So if you don't tell the doctor, by the way, my mother died at this age of breast cancer. Oh, well, when was she diagnosed? If you don't tell them, then they wouldn't know to tell you, oh, you need to go and have this test on such and such day.
Yep. There is a reason why they have that information listed on medical documents.
Yep.
Knowing your history. Who had it? What type did they have?
Yep.
So all of those things are important. It's not because, the doctor just wants to know. No,
it's important.
Correct.
Very important information. So, and those people that were adopted and stuff, if you can figure it out, it is you really need to try and figure it out because this information is so vital to your health. Yes. Because it can be that piece to the missing puzzle piece. You know, it might be just a little bit less work for the doctor and a little, you know, maybe 10 less tests for you because the doctor has that little bit of information. So please, if you can do the research and figure out your family medical history, it's very important. But thank you so much for chatting with us today. We went way over time, but it's okay.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks a lot. And we'll see you guys next time after show for Brief TV.